And speaking of politics, you have President Trump's opponents, the Democrat Party, still struggling mightily to figure out a message for their people. And it's like they can never get rid of the old ghosts that haunt them, whether it's the Bidens or Hillary Clinton, who never goes away. And here she is talking about how stupid some voters are who are generally support President Trump and Republicans, but rural voters and minority voters who are too stupid to be able to present ID to vote in elections. Watch.
You carry through what they're doing to try to undermine voting. They're trying to kick people off voting rolls. They're trying to demand, forms of identification that most real people don't have, and most older people and most rural people don't have. They're certainly redistricting to make it difficult to elect black representatives or Latino representatives or Democrats. So that means we have to be even more intentional in showing up and voting.
Demand forms of ID that most people don't have? Yeah. A license? If most people don't have that, which is not true, that's the problem. Let's get these people some licenses, but I'm pretty sure that most people have that form of identification.
No, not true, Carly. She's reached into the basket of deplorables, and in the basket of deplorables, there were no IDs in there.
That's right. There's a lot of other things, though. And one of these, this is one of the comments where I guess you could say no lesson learned from Hillary Clinton, although it doesn't matter. She's not going to run for office ever again. But in 2016 presidential election among rural voters, Trump got 62% of the vote to Hillary Clinton's 34%. So no lesson learned there. But they're still trying to make this case that not showing voter ID is a good thing. And it's a position that, if you talking about polls, poll after poll shows that a majority of Americans disagree with it because it is just common sense to prove who you are before you go to vote.
Actually, for an election. Just put that poll real quickly back up, because connect a few dots. In that DNC autopsy that left so much out about what went wrong, Kamala Biden, everything else, the one thing they did address is that they felt that the coastal Democrat elites were ignoring and isolating the heartland Democrats. That's what they called it. And you can look here, rural voters are heartland Democrats, and she, going all the way back to her deplorables comments, they never fixed that. So this wasn't that DNC problem of not being able to reach heartland Americans dates all the way back to 2016, if you sort of connect this dot.
Yeah, it is kind of, and I get it. Democrats are very much in the wilderness right now. You would think that in an election year like this, it's the sitting administration's second term, it's the midterms of their second term. Historically, that has been a wipeout bloodbath for any party that is in power. And when we started this year, I would have said it was going to be a massive blowout against Republicans in both the House and the Senate. The map is not as favorable for Democrats in the Senate as it has been in the last couple of cycles, but it's still the headwinds are so terrible, especially for an administration having its second term 8 years after, or 12, whatever it is, 10 years after they began their first administration. You would think it's going to be an absolute bloodbath for Republicans. But I have to say, fast forward 6 months to June 12th, it is a completely different scene. Some of it has to do with the success at redistricting, Republicans managing to match Democrats at the games that Democrats play. But a lot of it has to do with the fact that President Trump is talking about issues that people care about. Republicans are talking about issues that people care about. Voter ID. Republicans are on the right side of voter ID on an 80-20 issue. You poll Democrats, and they're in favor of voter ID. And Democrats are on the wrong side of everything. They're getting weird candidates who you can't sell. And then you have ghosts from the past, like Hillary Clinton, still doing this weird stuff that they do, trashing voters that they need to win over, and it's just not successful.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.